And welcome back yet again. My name is Rusty. This is me channel where I talk about me favorite horror movies and heavy metal and other aggressive rock. This series is called Scream With Me. And as I said in my last video, I was talking about a couple of military based with soldiers as protagonists and villains and victims and everything. And I want to now talk about the 2009 movie. It's not very well known, called Red Sands. Creepy. Now, okay. Like them eyes. So, Red Sands, it was released in 2009. It was directed by Alex Turner and written by Simon Barrett. It stars Shane West, Leonard Roberts, Aldis Hodge, and Callum Blue. So, the taglines are: during a mission in the Middle East, a group of U.S. soldiers destroy a statue out of boredom, only to then be visited by something the next day. Well, yeah, kind of. Um, so basically, you have a squadron of soldiers. How many are there? I think there's like about 8, something like that. And they have been sent out to the middle of nowhere to guard this little tiny outpost, which is basically a little house. But because of the logistical location of this little abandoned house, it's like really important to the U.S. military, I guess, because of, you know, where you can see convoys and stuff coming from. So yeah, that's the reason that it's important to hold this place. So as they are messing around in the area, around it, they're completely alone, cut off, they do exactly what it just said. They're messing around in the local area and they notice what appears to be a pretty ancient, actually it looks almost Egyptian. Um, they notice this castle. What? They notice a statue, and it's sort of like embedded but protruding from the wall of this side of a cliff. And they're just messing around, and one of them shoots it, and it busts apart and it falls down into pieces. And a couple of them, yell at the one who did it. It's like, what the F are you doing? That was probably 1,000 years old, and he just blew it off. It's, typical dumbass behavior. We see that in all kinds of horror movies. If we didn't have dumbasses, there would be no horror movies. So, you know, going all the way back to, the Amityville Horror. If it told me to get out, I would get out. It's just that simple. But, you know, no, I'm going to not listen to the pig eyes in the window when it tells me to get out. I'm just going to stay and see if everything gets better. No, yeah. So without dumbasses, there would be no horror movies. But there we go. So I like the cinematography of this movie because I swear, like when I'm watching it, I want a drink of water. I mean, I'm like, it's hot, even if it's not, and I'm thirsty, even if I'm not, because the color palette used in this movie, I think, was perfection. It's so hot and grainy, and there's this real grainy look to the desert scenes. Um, that's kind of interesting. I mean, you're not talking it doesn't have these like pretty desert vistas. Um, it looks oppressive and hot in a bad way, and it doesn't look like a pretty desert. It looks like I don't want to go there. Um, So I think it's maybe a day goes by, and they're all bored and they're kind of pissed off at having this, and you get to learn a little about each character. You have your typical squadron. I think, like we discussed in the last one, you have your pretty boys and your jocks and your I'm just here for the money and I don't give a shit, and the psycho ones. So you've got the gambit. They have representations of all the gambit of proper individuals. You're going to like some of them, you're going to dislike others, and be irrelevant to the rest. So, yeah, that's how that goes. Then a giant sandstorm shows up, which is carrying the Jinn. Djinn, the Jinn. That's what the demonic creature in this movie is. He's the Jinn. He's a Jinn. He appears as what you saw, um, this looks like an indigenous woman from the area. She doesn't speak English. She doesn't speak English, so they can't really, understand her. She's speaking a dialect. Now, there is a person that speaks fluent Arabic, you know, but he can't really understand what she's saying, which is, I guess, your first hint, because the dialect that she is speaking, he's like, this doesn't sound like any dialect I know. It sounds, you can tell it's from this area, from the Middle East, but it sounds so old, I can't make any of it out. It sounds like an ancient dialect. Hello. You did just unleash an ancient djinn on your ass, so, but of course they don't know that at the time. So, there they are having to deal with her, while at the same time, they seem to be, as the days progress, they get worse and worse. They begin to experience psychotic behavior, paranoia, and it basically almost becomes a slasher, just without a single killer, because multiple ones of them turn on each other and begin trying to kill each other. And she, of course, the meantime, she never really does anything that makes them suspect her as being the cause of these things going on, until we get, closer to the end, when she reveals herself. Now, the special effects in this movie, when they do bring out the Jinn are, this is a low budget movie. They're not spectacular, but they didn't make me laugh or anything either. They were acceptable for the level of this movie. I don't expect, Tom Cruise's The Mummy. But look, people hate that. They think it's a terrible movie, and it had millions and millions and millions of special effects. And they're like, well, I love the movie, but, I hate the movie, but I love the special effects. Well, sometimes, I love the movie, and it's just all right special effects. Make up your mind. It's like, God, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. But no, the special effects, the practical ones are perfect. They're great. The CGI, there's not a whole lot of it. They probably couldn't afford it. But what CGI is in there, when she's, there's a couple of CGI scenes that are really, really, really good. And then there's a couple of them that's like, well, I can tell that's CGI, but it's fine. It's fine. It's not ridiculously stupid or anything. So yeah, it's nothing to write home about as far as the special effects. This movie, to me, was more thrilled like I said, it was adequate. The special effects were adequate to display what I needed to see to carry on the story. The story is what I thought was good. The dynamics between the actors who are slowly losing their minds, especially the last one, who is trying to stay alive, and there is no happy ending in this movie. Um, you think one gets away. You think the last guy. I think it's probably the one played by Shane West. Um, Jeff. Or is it Callum Blue? Is it Jeff or Greg? In any event, he gets away, but they show you very quickly that it's not him that got away. He's a corpse in the desert. The Jinn got away and is now a different gender, if you know what I mean. Because, like I said, she is the demon that comes after them. That her presence is what, brings the evil about and causes them to all lose their minds and go after each other. And now she is he, and he is fixing to be turned loose on a base. In my opinion, I would like the sequel. I would love a sequel to this. I wish they had made a sequel, because I would like to see, from an intimate, to go from an intimate place where there's these 8 people and having to deal with. Well, remember in the last movie, I talked about how I wish there were more military-based horror movies. A sequel to this, where now that he is on the army base or the marine base or whatever the guys were, this Jinn as him now being turned loose on this military base, if that's the effects that the Jinn had on the 8-man team, the squad that was there, what kind of effect could the Jinn have? What kind of effect could he have now on a military base? That is a very interesting premise, an interesting prospect that I would like to see. I think it would make a good movie. I think they should have made a sequel. Guys who made this, Alex, Shane, Callum, all of you dudes, if I had the money, I would give you the money. If I was a producer, one of those billionaire producers that sits around and goes, hey, that looks cool. Gosh, Lord help the cinema industry if I was like $100 billion, one of those billionaires, because I would be there going, ooh, I really like this movie. Let me get a hold of this motherfucker who directed it or wrote it. Because I'm like, hey man, how much did this movie cost? Let's see. Let's see if they have the... Are you really serious? That can't be right. Do you know what that said? It said that this movie had an estimated budget of £1,500. £1,500. That's what? That's about $3,000. $3,500. £1,500. Yeah, it's about $3,500. Between 3 and 4, yeah, 35 and $4,500. That can't be right. International Movie Database can be fucked up, because that can't be right. Anyway, that freaked me out. Yeah, but anyway, let's call it 250,000. This movie looks like it was made for about $300,000, something like that, 200,000 something. Um, I would, if I was that kind of producer, I'd be like, I'd be calling this dude, and I'd be like going, hey, I like this movie. What can you do for 10 million? Can you make me a sequel for 10 million that takes place? Oh, well, I would love it, but that could bring us a lot of good horror. Let me tell you. You don't want me to. Oh, yeah, you do. You actually wish. Pray for me. Do some spells or some shit out there. Make me a billionaire so I can like make us some good horror movies. Because I would definitely be like, hey, I want a sequel to this. It's like Brightburn. Oh my God. I'd like call them guys. I'd be like going, I'll give you $30 million to make a sequel to Brightburn. Okay? I want to see him the next year, and then I want a trilogy. And then I'll give you 30 million for the third one, and let's have a trilogy for Brightburn. I would do all kind of shit like that. Y'all would get no peace from me, okay? I would be like producing horror movies left and right. Oh, but you won't make no money. That's okay. I'll be a billionaire. What the fuck? I bought this. There will be people who will buy the movie, even if I don't release it in the theater. There will be collectors and cultists who will, cult collectors who will buy my DVDs, me Blu-rays. Come on, it's cool, and I'd have the money to splurge on nice little movies. But anyway, enough fantasizing. Red Sands, Shane West, Leonard Roberts, Aldis Hodge, and Callum Blue. And it was released in 2009. The Jinn comes out, drives a squad of military guys in Afghanistan in the desert. Crazy, causing them to slash each other in pretty slasheristic ways, actually. So it's a very good horror movie. If you get the chance to rent it, see it, find it, buy it. I like I said in most of my vids, I don't rent or anything. I do have Netflix. I'll watch whatever's on Netflix, and if I like it, I'll buy it. But I don't rent or buy. The only thing that I put in, I have a Movies Anywhere and Vudu account that I share with me brother, and anything that comes with a digital copy, I will activate it, but I have never bought a digital movie. I just don't do that. We have a huge collection in there, but they all came from digital copies that came in Blu-rays. So. But I appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping by. I will be back again soon with more videos. And love you, miss you, bye. And thanks for dropping by.